Caesar. I also want to welcome Dr. Michael Emmanuel, and we heard a little more about his biography in just a short while. And then Mr. Robert Wright of GI Life, Pure Jamaica Limited. And this event is all about the process of rehabilitation, the rehabilitation of the loss of some of our variants, some of our seeds, and a new start in seeing how we can approach the whole issue of quality cultivation. This morning, it's going to be an agenda where we hear from these distinguished persons. We also hear from our minister, and we have a symbolic handover of the seeds, which is going to be handed over on behalf of the traditional cultivators and medicinal cannabis farmers of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The MCA is going to graciously receive those seeds, and we'll be talking about how we would have the process by which farmers in St. Vincent Grand will be able to take access and access this very important resource. We are then going to go on a tour. It's going to be taking Dr. Emmanuel and Mr. Wright on a tour of two cannabis farms, neighboring cannabis farms. We may not be able to have the persons who are attending here go along with us, but they've said that they do not want to go and visit any of the investors and so forth. They want to see traditional cultivators, and we're so obliged, and we are going to go on a very short tour after. Let me say, as we start off, that we are moving along, I would say, very steadily. And you've heard me talk many times before. We have crossed many milestones in terms of the legislation. The legislation is in place along with the regulations, and so that's necessary to conduct a modern medicinal cannabis industry. The important thing about the legislation is that we have, and Minister Caesar has been one of those, he's always looked to share the legislation with neighboring countries, other islands, and we're very pleased that just recently St. Lucia would have gone to decriminalize 30 grams of cannabis for personal use. I think that's an excellent move on their part, you know. In 2019, we would have done a similar thing for 56 grams. But whether or not every country will do the same measure, we felt 56 grams was the appropriate figure at the time. But we certainly acknowledge other islands as they come along and they do varying amounts, whether 30 grams or so is fine. Everybody would have known too that we have our banking sector fairly now in place. I would say that the banks have told us that traditional cultivators can open up accounts. Traditional cultivators can open up accounts. I think one or two started taking advantage of them. Some maybe have been a little shy, but the investors and so forth, we're now seeing this. And the only restriction is that the US-based companies are unable to do that right now because of the federal restrictions in the United States. You can't deal with any US dollars, and that's a strict process. So the whole banking compliance is outside of that, of the US banking arrangements. So we've set up a very nice and unique situation. I don't know if we probably the only island in the Caribbean to have been able to do so in terms of Canada, Europe, and so forth, as well as the rest of the Caribbean. And there can be a flow of revenue. If there's a sale to another Caribbean island that has legalized, or to Canada or Europe, then the flows could take place. It's very important. It's very, very important. And everyone knows we've been working on seed to sale. All the various companies have seed to sale, but we've developed a special seed to sale for patient access. And right now, you know, well over 100 patients have received prescriptions. We've trained doctors, trained pharmacists, and basically we have a very decent system where patients could get safe medication. As we discuss COVID, people often wonder whether vaccines are safe and all these kind of things. Well, in the same way, I imagine people will be asking the question, is the cannabis safe? You know, is the cannabis safe? And really, there's been only one way of really telling it. You can't look at it and say it look good and it smell good, you know, smell nice. That may not be enough. Downstairs, we're on the roof of a building, which is the Caribbean Gold Standard Laboratory. The building was constructed by the MCA, and we have a management team managing it with some of the state-of-the-art equipment. That is the same type of equipment you would find in Canada, in Germany, in any part of the world. State-of-the-art, high-tech equipment that could really do the job of producing what we call a certificate of analysis. That isn't just telling you which of the 11 more important cannabinoids are there. They ain't just telling you about THC and CBD, they're telling you about 11 of them. And some very interesting ones that are now gaining real popularity because of their unique properties, you know? And then the terpenes, we'd be able to do a substantial amount of the terpenes that give the smell and the aroma and so forth. But in addition, they could tell you if it is safe. It doesn't have any pesticide in it. And if anybody says, boy, I didn't feel like chopping down this area today, let me spray it with some granite soda and touch down so no weeds will grow up. Let me tell you, the lab downstairs has equipment, 2 pieces of equipment that will detect any pesticide. I remember there are athletes who would take performance enhancing drugs and think, well, let me stop 6 months before the Olympics or meet. And they could still test and find and pick up those things, you know? And so in the same way, you know, they're able to do, and we have to change that culture of the way in which we produce, even though, personally saying, I really appreciate the fact that Minister has led from a Caribbean point, a regional point of view, of the banning of touchdown. And I remember he would say people, we put him some pressure on him and say, weeds are gonna grow up everywhere. And weeds didn't grow up. But what it does, it has made the product safer, not just cannabis, but also dasheen and other products and so forth that we might eat. And it's well known, if I put on my doctor's hat, that those type of pesticides can induce some blood cancers, Hodgkin's disease, Hodgkin's lymphoma, all sorts of other blood conditions. And those things are extremely difficult to treat. So the best way to do is to avoid those sort of pesticides and do a little extra work. But in addition, heavy metals, you want to make sure there's no lead, mercury, those sort of things in the cannabis. And you also want to test for germs, bacteria, you know, salmonella, if you've ever heard of that germ. So bad, it could send people to the bathroom for days. Or fungus, mold, all those other things that sometimes always develop. And we have to look at these particular type situations. So with that, I want to say that the development of the laboratory has been crucial. But here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, apart from the fact that we've issued licenses, and so at the core of the whole process is the traditional cultivator. And we've always been looking at trying to provide land. And so down at Lasham Top Hill, 300 acres of land was identified just before December. We're about to distribute those lands. And then Sufre erupted. Sufre erupted and put on pause. A recent meeting with the Prime Minister he said, let's look at that again. Make the presentation to see if lands at Top Hill, Lasham will be safe. And to look at other possibilities. But the eruption of La Soufrière has also done a very sad thing. It has destroyed a lot of the farms on the slopes of La Soufrière. Notwithstanding, most of those farms were illegal farms. There has been the destruction and loss of a lot of seed varieties and land races. And so it was quite interesting when we received communication from Dr. Emmanuel that entities in Jamaica, not entities in United States or Canada or anywhere, although GI Life is US based, that they wanted to make a donation of feminized seeds that are designed for tropical climate, not for Sweden or Greenland or somewhere like that, but for tropical settings like St. Vincent and Grenadines. And we're very pleased that they have come through. There's some little issues there to be worked out and so forth, but we're very humbled by this particular gesture and that this could be effect. So the audience today is one of traditional cultivators. Just like yesterday when you delivered that particular lecture, I've been receiving calls all night and all morning. Individuals who praise the lecture, how it's excellent, and those who are upset because they didn't make to hear the lecture and so forth. Obviously, everybody at this event, we have to abide by all the COVID protocols. And so this could not be a major event in terms of invitations and so forth. We wanted to have it quite limited. So we've invited a selected of individuals who we knew might be able to make it. And at the same time, we have the media here with us to assist us in the whole dissemination of what is taking place. So this phase, besides the important lecture yesterday, today is about the handing over of the seeds. And so with that, I want to normally when they said opening remarks, they usually put down brief opening remarks for me. Yeah, they apologize. I think they've learned. In your hands. Yeah, they've learned. They don't put down brief anymore. You know what I mean? But I would like to introduce Dr. Emmanuel, who is the principal investigator of Life Science Cannabis Research Group in the Department of Life Science, University of the West Indies, Mona campus. His research team conducts research in the area of tropical horticulture for cannabis sativa, its applications, consistency, efficacy, and quality control throughout the cannabis value chain. He is the vice chair of the Bureau of Standard of Jamaica Cannabis Technical Committee. It's interesting too that here we have the chair of the Bureau of Standard, Dr. Cummins, you know. He's also chair of the Product Development Cannabis Industry Development Task Force Subcommittee. And in 2015, he was a second place winner in the Best New Style Farming category at the High Times World Cannabis Cup held in Negril, Jamaica. Dr. Emmanuel is a roots man, down to earth. I believe he hails originally from Dominica, a Dominican, of course, by heart and blood, but he's also Jamaican and, of course, a Caribbean man. Huh? And due to some connections, yes, his I think that his other half has Vincentian roots. And so there's a special kind of Caribbean heart in this individual. Dr. Emmanuel, I would like you just to come forward and please.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Thompson, and I would like to grace the presence of Minister Sabutu and the members of the MCA and the traditional farmers and everyone else who is here today to witness such a momentous occasion. In 2015, Jamaica embarked on decriminalizing cannabis. And in 2016, we saw the development of the Cannabis Licensing Authority. And following that, we saw St. Vincent in 2018 published and gazetted their medical cannabis bill. And in 2019, we saw the formation of the MCA. And I would just like to take this time to commend the work of the St. Vincent government and the MCA to see the sort of progress that has taken place thus far in developing a vertically integrated cannabis value chain. And following Jamaica, St. Vincent is the second to develop a vertically integrated cannabis value chain from seed to sale. And we definitely commend that process. Jamaica, St. Vincent has always had cannabis as an indicator species, right? And the word ganja in these two countries does have numerous connotations. It's not just a plant, it's a way of life, it's an expression, it's a culture. And with that said, we have seen where first world countries were persuaded to relax their legislation due to medical persuasion. But in the third world countries, including the Caribbean, it has been slightly different. Restorative justice has been the motive, and economic stimulation. And just to say that this momentous occasion that we are witnessing here is the first intra-regional movement of cannabis germplasm within CARICOM. And this indeed is a huge milestone to the development of the Caribbean cannabis economy. And we have seen over the past 30 years, intra-regional trade has been its lowest. And within cannabis, definitely being the most valuable horticultural, agricultural commodity within this region, has possibly been the most intra-regionally traded horticultural commodity in its raw state and catches the highest value. So it is good to see that we can cross over the board and move cannabis throughout the Caribbean legally and through at the airport and customs. So this is a huge milestone. I never thought I would be able to witness such a thing, right? So with that said, this donation is very timely, meaning that it is very unfortunate what happened in April 2021, where the eruption of the La Soufrière erupted, and that saw pyroclastic flows. We saw the plume of ash, and it decimated agriculture generally within, especially along the slopes of the volcano. So in terms of cannabis, we know that we tend to underplay the role that plants generally play in human well-being, from nutrition to structural to medicinal to recreational to spiritual to all these aspects. And here we have a single species of plant that contributes to human well-being in the same significant way in terms of hemp for structure, the seeds for nutrition, the flowers, the trichomes for medicinal, psychoactive properties, for spiritual properties, and the list goes on. So for a single species of plant, it enhances human well-being in such a profound way that because we work so hard and life has, become somewhat difficult, particularly in these pandemic times for many of us, cannabis has proven to provide us a level of relief, meaning that you can't buy happiness, but you can buy cannabis that could indirectly make you happy and increase your mood. So, this donation is extremely timely in terms of empowering these, traditional farmers. And I am a traditional farmer. I'm a farmer first and foremost, and to see in terms of for the Caribbean region to benefit significantly from producing cannabis from a capacity point of view, it must come from the traditional cultivators. And this, humanitarian gesture of providing clean planting material, free from diseases, free from fungal, free from fungal pathogens, free from hermaphrodism within the genetic makeup. And these seeds are feminized. So understanding the economic potential of cultivating cannabis from a commercial point of view, it is prudent that we understand how do we generate income from having a low input cost by utilizing the solar radiation, the ecosystem, the climate, the soil that we have within the equatorial climate, and use that to capitalize on the production of a commercially sustainable, viable industry that meets international accreditation and does have significant value based on trading as a horticultural commodity globally. So providing these feminized seeds that have been stabilized and bred for high THC within the equatorial climate, and this project was really came together by the company G Life Limited along with the Pure Jamaican group of companies where we saw a huge collaboration between Humboldt Seed Company in California, which is one of the largest and well-known seed companies globally. They have a serious portfolio and quality assurance mechanisms, which I was fortunate to visit their farms, and Ed Rosenthal, which is a rock star within the cannabis world that hails from California. And along with the University of the West Indies, the Life Science Cannabis Research Group, we were able to collaborate and work in terms of developing a particular germplasm catalog that could really assist these cultivators within the Caribbean by cultivating a commercial viable crop that could meet the economic demands that are necessary to maintain sustainability by cultivating a horticultural commodity. I thank you everyone, and I'm sure this is not the first, and I will be back, of course, as mentioned. I have my wife is from St. Vincent, so by means necessary, I definitely feel obliged to continue contributing to the development of this sector. So thank you very much. Come back.
Cheers. It's amazing how the reporters just jostle for the best shot. You know what I mean? Thank you very much. Well, that's an additional sense of respect because I think our laws in some countries it's the female who takes the nationality of that of the male. Here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, it's open to both. So we have to value you also as a Vincentian, as a Dominican, as a Jamaican, as a West Indian. You know, I want to say that St. Vincent and Grenadines has been, St. Vincent and Grenadines has designated the Medicinal Cannabis Authority to be the competent authority when it comes to dealing with the United Nations in relation to narcotics in general, but more specifically cannabis. And we would have received notification in January of 2020 that the MCA is the authorized agency and the authority. We are totally compliant with all the reporting and so forth that takes place. And we have been issued a certain amount of estimates, quota, that can be used here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And we're lucky, I would say, I shouldn't say it on camera because I don't want them to reduce it, you know, but we have adequate estimates and so forth to deal with our own local consumption. Those estimates do not deal at all with your ability to export. It depends on where you're exporting to. They will have their own estimates. And basically, I think St. Vincent and Grenadines is keen on being able to export to other countries that have their own quota and estimate that they could receive medicinal cannabis. And I think that that process is now on the way. And I think we've been getting things together step by step. And I said, and as coming out of what Dr. Emmanuel has been saying, and coming out of the questions asked yesterday, a number of traditional cultivators, some of them are here, asked some tough questions, tough questions, that even though we consider the cannabis in St. Vincent to be of excellent quality, the hard work of cultivation involves having to demale the plant, taking out, for those people who don't know, there's a male species and a female species. And the males, all they want to do is to help produce more seeds. And the seeds can be of value if they are of great quality, or they can be very much of a nuisance. But there's also what we would call the Zions, right? The hermaphrodites. And they have been developing as a clear nuisance in the whole cultivation of cannabis. And the injection of these specially researched type of seeds that meet the whole criteria of being heat resistant and mold resistant and maybe drought resistant, and at the same time a lot of what we had previously, some of it may have come from Colombia, some of it may have come from Jamaica in terms of the original strains as being our original land races, but we've been bringing in seeds from certain countries that are designed for those more colder climates. And we wouldn't know if they are right for St. Vincent. So it's really great that we have with us Mr. Robert Wright of Pure Jamaica Limited and GI Life Farms, a subsidiary of Pure Jamaica. And he's a director of Pure Jamaica and chairman of the GI Life Foundation and the Pan American Advocate. This is the founder and director of also Steep Hill Labs, Jamaica, is a cannabis research and development and testing facility in Jamaica. I would like to ask Mr. Wright, please, if you could come and make his remarks. And really, we really appreciate this gesture from the two of you, and we know that I'm pretty sure it's going to be appreciated by our traditional cultivators too. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Good day, everyone. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for coming out on a Saturday to see us, and also really to thank Dr. Thompson and his team at the MCA for the warm Vincentian hospitality that we've been receiving, Dr. Emmanuel and myself. I represent Pure Jamaican, the Pure Jamaican group of companies, and our farm in Jamaica, Gili Farm, has produced seeds which I know are very needed in St. Vincent. And so we couldn't be prouder to be a part of the restoration and renewal of farms in St. Vincent by the donation of these seeds. This donation wouldn't have been possible without the collaboration, support, encouragement of our regulator in Jamaica, the Cannabis Licensing Authority, who has been extremely supportive. Our customs as well, Caribbean Airlines, JAMPRO. This really required a joined up effort of so many government agencies and organizations for us to be here today. So I just want to thank them for the support that they've given us to make this possible. And also to say that as a member of CARICOM, as a CARICOM member state, I believe that this is what the founders of CARICOM would have wanted, that when a country like St. Vincent, who experiences terrible volcanic eruption, is in a time of need, that the other member states would come to its aid, and we're so happy to play a small part in the recovery efforts here in St. Vincent. I would also want to say that Dr. Emmanuel and myself were here yesterday, where we were involved in a call with traditional farmers. We had the opportunity to see the work that's being done by the MCA and by the Ministry of Agriculture and the other government entities. And we are very impressed with what has happened in such a short period of time. I've visited many countries and I've seen efforts that have been taken in other jurisdictions, and it's truly remarkable what has been done here in St. Vincent. It really is a great example for other Caribbean countries to follow. And we all should know that St. Vincent and Jamaica have been real pioneers in the cannabis space in the region, going back to the 1970s when Dr. Manley West at University of the West Indies and Dr. Lockham, who's from St. Vincent, produced Canasol and Asmasol, which were pioneering medicines for glaucoma and for asthma, which I think represent the future of medicinal cannabis, because in the end, this very valuable plant can produce medicines that can help heal, that can promote well-being. And as Dr. Emmanuel said, it also promotes happiness. So it really does both things extremely well, health and happiness together, which is what we want in our region. So we look forward to working further with St. Vincent. This donation
in our view, is going to be the first of our ongoing collaboration, not just by providing feminized seeds and providing the kinds of germplasm that the country needs, but also technical assistance, dialogue, exchange, working together, sharing ideas, sharing best practices. That is what we hope to do. The Pure Jamaican Group is committed to working regionally, and we're committed to sharing the expertise that we've developed over the years, but also learning from you in St. Vincent, because the traditional farmers here have a long history in the industry, and we know that we can learn from you by working together. So I'm again just want to thank everyone that was involved, all the institutions that helped us get to this stage where we could make this donation, and we look forward to being here again to continue the partnership that we've started today. So thanks again very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wright. You know, I think it was just a matter of last week that the Prime Minister had a tour of medicinal cannabis facility to see the industry, to get a feel of it. We speak to the Prime Minister, but you know, sometimes you can hear from officials, but coming and then seeing it and then digging a little deeper and then interrogating and questioning the various entities, I think he thought was very important. And he was able to, you know, under the lead of Minister Caesar, make this particular tour. And I want to say that the Prime Minister was very pleased, you know, and he ended one of his short presentations by acknowledging and expressing his appreciation of the work that Minister Caesar has been doing in terms of his own leadership in this regard, in terms of the development of this important sector, apart from the other areas in agriculture. And I know too that Minister Caesar is has been one of the brainchild of this whole industry, is also quite proud of the particular event. And it's quite fitting that this, I won't say not last area, but this particular important area of the donation of seeds and the reception of seeds on behalf of the people of St. Vincent, more so on behalf of traditional cultivators, is a very important step. He has a tall order of rehabilitating the whole agricultural sector, which no doubt has been severely affected. I would not say devastated. Devastated sounds a little too permanent and sounds too tall an order, but I know that he has his hands full, and he basically is expected to get the job done. So with that, Minister, please, if you could.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thompson, the CEO of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and staff, Dr. Emmanuel, my dear brother Wright, the traditional cultivators who are here with us this morning, and the media, those who are following us online. I want to welcome all of us to this very important session this morning. Just a preliminary point. I wish to sincerely thank Dr. Emmanuel and Mr. Wright
on behalf of the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for reaching out to us in this our time of need. It's usually said that a friend in need is a friend indeed. And I just want to note to all of us that Dr. Emmanuel, it's not new for him to reach out to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to assist us. In fact, one of the first offers for assistance received by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the embryonic stages of the discussion to establish a modern medicinal wellness industry, and particularly the medicinal cannabis industry in our country, came from Dr. Emmanuel. He sent an email to the ministry, and in a matter of days, I followed it up with a telephone call, and he commended the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the effort that they were making. And he said to us that he will make himself available to assist if we needed the assistance in anything as it pertains to the crafting of the policy and the framework. So I don't want us to see our brothers here as only coming to the successful stage of the industry, but they were there from the beginning. I want us to give them a special show of appreciation. When we saw the eruptive stage, the start of the eruptive stage of La Soufrière and the subsequent 32 volcanic eruptions of La Soufrière, we knew from the get-go that there would be intense destruction of our agricultural germplasm, not only for cannabis, but for other commodities. And I am happy today to receive this assistance that will go a very long way in augmenting the residue of the germplasm that we have here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is a delight to see the traditional cultivators here with us. As a policymaker, I had the opportunity to be the Minister of Agriculture for the last 10 years. And promises are usually made. And I can recall in the very early days of crafting the industry that we noted to the traditional cultivators that you will not be left behind. An earlier clock, we ensured that it wasn't just word of mouth, but that in the texture of the jurisprudence and the legislation which evolved, that we carved out a special space for the traditional cultivator. I have said it in the past, and I want to say it here again. The forerunners to this industry were the traditional cultivators. When many persons in the Rastafari community spoke about the medicinal value of cannabis, many looked at them in a negative way. And I am happy today that we have blended science with a history of experiments by our people, even though they did not have the wherewithal to do the depth of the quantitative or qualitative scientific research. And we have married that with policy to ensure that what we are doing here is legal. That is important. We have made many promises, and we have already seen the fulfillment of many of these promises. It was an early mantra that the medicinal wellness industry would begin and it would end with science. And we are seeing persons from across the globe heading to St. Vincent and the Grenadines as the place where we are witnessing a revolution in the science of medicinal wellness. And this is something that we have to be very proud of as a people and as a nation. It is the quest of the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to explore a very broad array of flora, fauna, and fungi to ensure that we have a modern, competitive, nutraceutical, aquaceutical, and eventually pharmaceutical industry, one that we will all be able to boast about and will exude the pride of Hiruna, land of the blessed. We are witnessing here today a coming together of many great minds. And we have been blessed to see a consensus addendum among these minds for the benefit of the entire industry. We saw persons coming out of the Ministry of Finance to be a part of the MCA. A medical doctor. We had my dear brother, Dr. Cummins, who was at the time in Trinidad and Tobago doing research work and who did work globally in research. Professor Ogaro from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but working in Barbados. And we also had persons from the Ministry of Agriculture. And what we are here is the piece of real estate we are standing here on was the Rivulet Agriculture Station. And we have been able to transform it into the headquarters of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority. And I can stand up anywhere in the world today and boast that we have an excellent team here at the MCA. And I want to thank them for the work that they continue to do. The MCA will hold in trust for a very brief moment the assets that you have passed on to us to pass on to the traditional cultivators and other local cultivators in the country. And I want on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture to note that we will be able to assist you by providing other support, because the seed is only one important part of the production, but you will also need other forms of support, and we will be there to assist you. This morning is a definite show that there is great meaning to the OECS, my brother from Dominica, There is great meaning to the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, my dear brother from Jamaica. And there is great meaning to the Caribbean civilization. Welcome again to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And may these seeds bear great buds. Thank you very much.
You know, behind us is one of our greenhouses. It's a research greenhouses. The Medicinal Cannabis Authority certainly is not in the business of cultivation and so forth. We are regulators. We are regulators. And but this is about research. And you know, as the minister has said, we basically will be looking to facilitate the Upper Dumbarton. We're hoping to assist traditional culture by actually producing seedlings that would be distributed. There will be some seeds that would also be distributed on a test basis to see how they're performing and so forth. And we'll be outlining this whole program in many regards. Minister, you're just about to leave. We're just about to have the handover. We're just about to do that process. What I would like is if we expect that symbolically we are going to be handing over the seeds. The bulk of the seeds are not here quite yet. We expect them just in a few more days. We have to say that. But we are hoping if we could come forward. And you know what? I would like to have a few of the traditional cultivators along with us. Brother, I would like you to, if you could come forward. Colin, you must be here. And Mr. Byron, I wonder if you could also come forward. We may not be able to have everybody. Brother, you would like to come forward and so? You please, we would love to have you here as part of this particular process. Maybe what we could do is to just have some of these chairs. And even though the MCA is going to receive, I think that we want to see the traditional cultivators really as being the ones who are a major part of this program. How do we deal with that environmental thing behind us there? I'm not sure if you're getting the smoke. What should we do?
Move the podium.
Remove the podium. Yes. The podium.
Give it to both.
Yes. Yes. You could.
If the MCA is receiving it on behalf, somebody from the MCA should be receiving it.
Here. Let me
I
see.
think it should probably come in the center. Come here.
Yeah.
And then you just hold it.
Right.
Yes.
You want from here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Okay. And you just come around and just stretch forward too, because many hands could move.
Yes. Everyone put their hand there. Michelle, your hand is important. Excellent. I'm getting
Yes. Thank you very much.
hold it. That we kind of that tall brother behind there, we're not getting him.
Which one?
Okay, now we go.
Okay.
All right.
All right, thanks a million.
Thank you.
Yes, and once again, let me express the appreciation. Let me say, there's a lot of work that's gone into this. We had to contact our sister organization in Jamaica. There the whole phytosanitary clearance both here in St. Vincent and in Jamaica. Luckily, in St. Vincent, the importation of seeds is a fairly simple process. There's no restriction of the importation of seeds here in St. Vincent, but we still want them to be done on the phytosanitary to make sure there's no fungus and all this other thing there. But there isn't no legal restriction from a narcotic point of view. And persons able to import themselves. But we want persons to, as you look to import seeds, you're importing the right type of material. And so trying to develop a proper process where you have the best quality product is critical, because that will help you in terms of your own product, and you don't get a whole set of, from the lecture yesterday, you don't want a whole set of Zions, you know? You don't want a whole set of hermaphrodites. And the bulk of what is to come is still looking to come to customs. We here in St. Vincent Grenadines, the customs authority sits on our board, so that in terms of exports and so forth, they are well informed in terms of that whole process, you know? And we expect that all these different agencies that are involved, that on their books, cannabis is illegal, we've cleared that up here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And we are hoping that as the region moves through this process, that their agencies will also deal with this, the airports, the port authorities, and all this other stuff. So I want to say that on behalf of the traditional cultivators of St. Vincent, and on behalf of them, really want to thank you very much. And we are going to make sure that they put this to good use. Right?
Thank you. A pleasure.
Right, pleasure.
The first of many.
Yes. Okay.
And I just want to add one other comment. We really see this as a two-way exchange. Today, Jamaica is providing these seeds, but in the future, St. Vincent can be providing Jamaica with seeds or other Caribbean islands with seeds.
Yes.
This is a rich industry, and so St. Vincent has a role to play. And we hope that this is the first of many exchanges like this.
Thank you. Yes. And so, gentlemen, we are now going to have the vote of thanks. Please, Dorona. Yes. Oops. Could I pull this out? Just pull out? What's this thing? What's this? Yes. Dorona, please.
Pleasant afternoon again, morning, it's not afternoon yet, everyone. Given the challenges faced by COVID-19, it is very miraculous that we have pulled off such a great event with such success. So for that, I'd like to thank Almighty God for health and strength, and for bringing Dr. Emmanuel and Mr. Wright here safely from Jamaica. I'd like to thank our visionary leader, Dr. Thompson, for his kind remarks and on the progress made here in the industry in St. Vincent. I'd like to thank Mr. Emmanuel for his informative and captivating lecture yesterday, and for also his kind remarks on the authority here in St. Vincent. Mr. Wright, I'd like to thank you for your donation of seeds to your authority and for the farmers here in St. Vincent. I'd also like to thank our Minister, our Honorable Minister Sabuto Caesar, who makes himself readily available for ceremonies like this and for his guidance here. I'd like to thank the media for coming, and I hope that you give us great coverage. I'd like to thank the audience for being here physically and those virtually via the live stream of Jiffy. And finally, I'd like to thank the hardworking staff of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority for pulling together such a great event. So again, thank you everyone, and I hope you have a great weekend.
The last thing, I know that a number of the traditional cultivators, Dr. Emmanuel, would want to have a little word with you. We'll be going on a tour, but I know they still had questions left over from yesterday. So I hope you will make yourself available. And you know, we want to thank you very much for coming along, and really do have a safe, protocol oriented trip back home. And I know we're going through a little spike here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But I say a little spike, let me take that off. We're going through a spike. And Caribbean is in, I once again, as I always do, I want to encourage everybody, you know, who have not been vaccinated yet. Let me tell you, you know, I want you to be safe and to vaccinate. Thank you very much, Linda. President, good morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we wrap up our live stream today. Thank you so very much for joining this situation update. Until we meet again,